So this website, prop or not, short for propaganda or not, question mark, that labels 200 websites Russian propaganda. You know, some of the websites listed, EU Times, Jews News, others, they deserve to be called out. Other websites, you more or less are dealing with people's opinion. And so, you know, this is actually quite serious when the website says that the Russian propaganda is an act of war. These websites are serving the Russian interests whether they know it or not. And there is the suggestion that the websites and those providing logistical support be investigated. Did I mention already that I post news for a website that was labeled Russian propaganda? Not because of the news that I post, but because of the editorials that the website's owner puts out there. And I can see how that would be attacked. His opinion regarding Russia. Now, my opinion and his are very, very different. I'm on record for warning of a Russian invasion. So I personally couldn't be accused of being a Russian propagandist. But posting news on a website labeled such? So we're in the day and age of the witch hunt. And boy, oh boy, it seems to be coming from all different directions. This is a crazy time to be alive. It's a time that we should be confident, though, in what we do, not have regrets for the things that we put out there. So I don't have regrets for things that I personally have put out there. I want people to think about the spiritual reality over all this. They want us to be fighting. They want us to be afraid. They want us to think twice about, you know, starting a website or starting a blog. I will say, I certainly could see the benefit of not being too big in the alternative media, if you know what I mean. They are on a witch hunt, and they have developed list after list after list after list. And there are some things that I find to be interesting because, unlike my peers in the alternative media, I believe that there are Russian trolls. I believe that there is a fake news epidemic that's infected the alternative media. And I'm hoping that people with a legitimate interest to flush out fake news differentiate between people with political opinions, people being pro-Trump, for example, and people that are straight up peddling the worst, Islamic Sharia law coming to your neighborhood, ha ha ha, you know, like the most outrageous propaganda. It's not necessarily just anti-Muslim, it's anti-Middle Eastern propaganda. Why can't I see people demonize that fake news? Instead, as I've been mentioning before, I see the alternative media pointing their finger at the mainstream media pointing their finger at the alternative media, going back and forth between the Washington Post, back and forth. But the propaganda put out by propaganda or not is fairly interesting, because with propaganda that is very effective, what you have is a situation where websites have been allowed to operate for some time. Websites that sometimes, I've said, go down in a few weeks or go down in a few months, that are operated on a temporary basis. Facebook takes that news and promotes it, and people that are gullible share that information because of their interest with the Google AdSense and the clickbait. And so it's like a lot of people have been set up. And then, of course, you have people that are innocent that are being called propagandists because of the extreme allegations that they're making against the United States. So they can be labeled. You got to understand, somebody could be anti-Russia and anti-U.S., but be labeled a propagandist for Russia if something on their website pisses the wrong person off. What also seems to be the case here is how big somebody is. Whether or not somebody has a certain amount of, because they talked about, you know, that list of 200, 15 million, a reach of 15 million. We obviously looked at the Facebook pages. And I've been talking about Facebook really helped Trump. And so they're going after a number of websites. I do need to say that not all the websites that I saw on the list were pro-Trump. One of them was Mint Press News, that has actually done some great work. I'm not a big follower of that particular website. I don't know if they dabble in fake news or not. I know that I've seen some good stuff posted on Mint Press News. So we're definitely in a period in time of divide and conquer. And right now there is a witch hunt within the alternative media. And we certainly can see people that are targeted, that are being targeted simply because of something on their website. I think of Activist Post. I think of Free Thought Project. I think of Anti-Media. I think of a few other websites. I think of Ron Paul, the Ron Paul Institute. I think of other websites that don't really deserve to be put into this box of Russian propaganda. And then again, we look at this website, prop or not, and they're saying that this is an act of war and that the people involved with these websites need to be investigated by these security services. And then, of course, we wonder who is behind this website, which is cited by the Washington Post. Who is behind the website? Some people have tried to look. Perhaps the answers are going to come in the coming hours or coming days. And so I consider myself to be right in the middle of all this. I'm actually one of the first, as I close here, to those watching, to have mentioned fake news. And it's on my channel. And go back and listen to what I've said over a year ago. That's why I don't really consider myself to be a member of the alternative media, but hashtag free media, because of the number of things and differences between myself and members of the quote-unquote alternative media. Are there some people that I would consider to be useful idiots that are parodying aspects of propaganda that they don't understand? I've actually, if you go back in my channel the last 4 years, you're going to have that answer. I'm a pioneer in the independent media for calling out Russian propaganda, and I'm not paid by Soros, and I'm not a Clinton plant, but it's real. I'm trolled myself by people with broken English that seem to have a very bizarre obsession with white supremacy, you know, and Jews being subhumans, and we see the stuff that's being put out there, and it's like, you know, they're making this thing about the elections. This isn't really about the elections. This is about, in my eyes, a global new world order, a Trump, Putin, even Saudi Arabia and other alliance, and an expansion of the genocide in the Middle East today. That's where my concern is with Russia and the new world order that's coming. And the United States literally engaging in a suicide move after suicide move with our foreign policy and the actions of the United States. These are suicidal moves. And all it's done, as I've talked about for years, is elevate this view of Putin and this view of Russia for so many years. Why is it difficult for people to see through the propaganda with Putin riding his horse without a shirt, or doing a judo throw, or doing some other nonsense? You know, I'm bringing over Steven Seagal and making him a Russian citizen. You know, having info babes on RT. Why is it difficult for today's American conspiracy researcher, or so-called independent thinker, to see through the Trump deception and the Putin deception as well? You know, to not just be stuck on Obama or Clinton. Why be so divided? Why not look at what's really going on? With 9/11, why just say it's an inside job? Why not look at the international interests in covering up 9/11? Because that's how I see it. You know, there were Russians outside Afghanistan, and I believe countries like Uzbekistan or other nearby countries. In the days prior to September 11, 2001, Russian special forces just outside of Afghanistan. And so I remember headlines like this. I also am very familiar with Russia's involvement in Afghanistan and how people have forgotten the war crimes that Russia was involved in when they were in that country until the year 1989. Did we really see the fall of the Soviet Union? And what more should we know about this U.S.-Russia alliance to, again, arm them on the ground and then knock them down? Arm them on the ground and then knock them down. Arm them on the ground and then knock them down. Repeat, repeat, repeat. What is really going on in Syria between the Russia and the United States? So in closing, what's my position? There's a grand deception afoot. And a lot of people don't want to look at it. I see the war crimes and actions of the United States in the Middle East. In reality, I see Russia's silence on a lot of things, as well as China. I see how they are benefiting in their own way from what is taking place in the Middle East, and also why China funds our war. And I've talked about this for years and years and years and years and years on my videos. And now there's a witch hunt, and some mysterious think tank has got a list of 200, and they're calling for an investigation of everybody involved. And we're back in the age of McCarthyism, where innocent people are caught in the middle. Are they really going to go after the fake news websites, though? And see, the reality is, we might be dealing with the CIA and the Russians working together with the fake news websites and this ongoing disinformation, info war. But for now, those are my thoughts on the issue and where we stand. And we need to move forward from here and differentiate ourselves, of course, from those that have an allegiance to any particular nation state, especially Russia. You know, there is an importance in being independent from being swayed. And I think you can note as well as I that a certain amount of people in the so-called independent alternative media have been swayed by the Russian propaganda. And as a result of being swayed by the Russian propaganda, some of them are, without evidence, being accused unjustly of being tied in with the Russian propagandists themselves. And this whole thing seems to be a setup. And again, when it comes to the fake Islamic invasion websites and the other fake news websites, there is a very real potential of a Russian troll army, which does exist, but you cannot discount the CIA's involvement and the fact that they, in fact, may be working together along with other agencies, and who's to say the MI5 and the Chinese are not involved. And so these are things that I ask you to consider before just laughing off the whole idea of fake news or unjustly blaming the websites that have been listed as fake news or Russian propaganda. I'm Alex Ansary signing off for November 27th, 2016.